As I walk through the inner city neighborhoods late at night, all I seem to see and hear amidst the fast cars, the sirens, and the streetlights is a field of dreams, where children whisper visions into the wind with enough power to move mountains the size of towers as easily as flowers in the breeze. Yet, because of where they're from, capability has been reduced to a cap on their ability. And as I look at this place that some call a ghetto, I wish I could scream, "Come ghetto dream! Get them for cheap, get them for free!" The desire to aspire for better is not a disease, but the hood is only like Neverland. It only exists if you believe. They sprinkle the dust over our nose so we keep our heads down when we sneeze and keep our eyes away from our truest possibilities. They call it Neverland because they never really want you to leave, and then if you're flying, they say you'll never land because there's nothing left in these trees. So instead of reaching high to be the best that we can be, we reach for the needle to help us prove that this dream is reality. We prick ourselves with pain, prejudice, and poverty till we bleed or we scream, leaving holes inside our arms, inside our chests, inside our families. And I know society doesn't help to conquer this insanity, but I know Dorchester's not the hood. It's just the place between Mattapan and Roxbury. It's also the place where a lot of our young people are buried. And these fallen bones of our former visionaries should help make the hood fertile ground to turn the city of sorrows into an agricultural dream town where dreams are raised by the earful of children's laughter and after-school programs breed workers for the harvest. Don't you know it's after school when kids work the hardest? So as I pass by Pop Warner, I dare not mock their positivity because healthy bodies means healthy minds, healthy dreams, like dreams. Wish it worked in reverse because it seems a lot of these young kids don't make it past their teens. And the ones that live out their lives can't seem to live out their dreams because the seed of encouragement wasn't sown when times got the hardest. I want to live in the world where we lay foundations so that our young people dream high, aim big, and let God handle the rest. So as we get old, and they open the history books, the stories told of people who helped our own develop by helping to overcome our difficulties instead of being the people who handed over our dreams. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast, and you're tuned to another episode. And tonight, people, we have a really, really special guest all the way from the Boston area. But before we get started, this episode here will be live, also on Untitled Chapter Radio, but as well, you can hear this on YouTube, Facebook, and other streaming platforms. And people, tonight, we have an amazing guest from Boston, one of the amazing members of the Ama Latina Boston edition, as well as many, many other projects. We have here the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Lumyr, Derisier.
What's up, man? I feel like I should use my announcer, like, hello.
Man, it's me, honestly, as we've talked also, man, you, my friend, are a man of many talents, a person that I've been following over this past year with this pandemic, but just seeing everything you've been able to accomplish from your dance career, from your photography, from your podcast that you have, man, honestly, it's an honor to have you on tonight.
Bro, I'm like shocked. Like I've watched your show from the beginning. I haven't seen every episode, but I've seen it. I've popped in for some episodes, and it's like I'm impressed. I think it's great what you're doing, and I think aside from the fact that it's well produced, it's documenting the history of a culture that otherwise would go unnoticed. And so, like, I'm super grateful. And I say all that to say, I'm like, dude, I made it.
Man, it's for me too, hearing those words is so special because exactly what you said, documentation. That's something that's very important to me. And I've even talked about that with certain guests of understanding that their voice, your story matters. You might not think it matters because most of the time the conversations we're having were normally done privately with our friends in the hotel rooms. But now having the same people that admire us or pay their money to come to events to actually see us perform, that can actually learn something about us before they get to see us again, I think is awesome, because for me, having this platform allows people to build a better connection with the artists that they love already.
For sure. I think one thing I always say to my students, but I would also associate to like my peers, it's like these people that you dance with are not your friends. And I say that in the sense that like you have to take that extra step to become friends with someone. Like these are people you have an opportunity to become friends, but you have to put in the work. You have to be accountable. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be trustworthy, you know? And I think the downside of the social dance community, at least from what I've seen, it's just like not knowing that it allows for those misunderstandings, you know? But I think what's great about your show is that you allow us to like tear those misunderstandings apart because people are sitting down and talking, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, many people say change can't happen unless we do this. But yeah, I'm creating the conversations that's allowing change to happen, because otherwise it would just be swept under the rug. Because in actuality, I learned that the same issues that I've had, many people have those same things. But when we're going to a 3-day event that you've been waiting 6 months for and saving up for, and when we come, we don't want to think about the pressures and everything else we go through outside. We're in a different world. We're kind of escaping from our own reality, but allowing platforms like myself and yours to happen help people understand that there maybe are people that think just like them, that feel just like them. Because again, like I've told many people, this pandemic has brought a lot of self-reflection to me and many people I've talked to, because people are realizing how vulnerable they really are emotionally, maybe even physically, mentally, spiritually. I mean, because many people haven't been through a situation like this that they can't control. So, you know, having platforms like yours and mine and many others is really inspirational, and it helps other people cope and understand things maybe a little bit better.
For sure. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of my first time at DCBX. I think it was probably 2018 or 2019. First off, shout out to DCBX. Y'all are amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Lumyr.
I mean,
that
was my first major Congress and like life changing. But that aside, I think that was the year that Katrina hit. And whatever year Katrina hit, I was my first time at DCBX. And
wow,
it was an amazing weekend. You know, I had like, especially because I was just getting into dance, and it was amazing. And I remember the last day, you know, Sunday, kind of hanging out, you know, you go to a late lunch. And I remember watching on TV, looking at like the carnage that happened at Katrina that weekend while we were there, you know? So it's just like, I agree with you that when we're in that dance space, for many of us, dance is like an escape. But knowing that if we really want to make change and make connections, it's like, despite us, you know, using that as an escape, we have to remember that these are real people too. You know, when you
no, it's true. Like when you kind of peel back the layers, you understand, again, we all bleed the same, but we have our own experiences. And for me, having this podcast allows me to learn a lot more about artists like yourself, because I know it's more than just what you do on a stage. It's more than what photo shoot you just finished. There's more to you than that. So having you on, that's really also the sole focus, is to better understand the artists that I admire and many others admire. So, I mean, as we get started, always I love to understand, I always ask this question. The first one that hits up is, who is or who was Lumyr before dance?
You know, in some ways, I would say I don't know, because Lumyr before dance was a different person. I started dancing actually, I would say in high school. So my sophomore year of high school, I started dancing dance hall. That's my first dance. That's like my love. That's how I see music, is through a dance hall lens, reggae dance hall, you know. And before then, I couldn't dance. Like dance was a foreign concept to me. I always tell the joke that I didn't even know that there was a beat to be on, let alone to learn how to do. I kid you not. The beat was 1, 2.
Yeah.
1, 2. My first party, I was like,
oh, you were that.
I was definitely, And then I remember I went to a party. I was in 10th grade. It was like our high school dance or whatever. And I saw this guy. I'm like, how are they moving so in sync together at the same time? I literally stood. Imagine someone's like, you're sitting there, doing your thing, and this guy's like just staring at you and the girl, and he's just like, the meme with the numbers flash across the face.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I mean,
that was me. I was definitely that dude. And then the day that I don't remember the exact moment, but I remember it was like, oh, the beat. Oh, yes. You dance all on the aha. Okay. All right. I get it.
Oh, and I've seen those moments with people when you're in that process of trying to figure out which beat to catch or what hit, and it's just not hitting. Yeah. Oh man. God bless.
But to answer your question more directly, before dancing, I was really big into writing. And I'm surprised that you even found that poetry video. 2019, I hosted an open mic for a friend of mine. Shout outs to Anita D. She came in town, so we threw a thing together for her. And so I did a piece when I was there. But before dancing, writing was the way that I would express myself. So I would write poetry all the time. I didn't perform because, it just wasn't a thing, but I would write all the time. Is how I organized my thoughts. And that's how I would express myself. I wasn't like super social. Like I was always in situations where I was the different one, whether it was switching schools all the time. Like I went to I think 4 or 5 different middle schools for a number of different reasons, So I was always the other. And the one thing that was constant was writing, and being able to organize my thoughts that way, like that became part of my identity. And then once the opportunity to dance came, it shifted from expressing it with my words to expressing myself through my body, if that makes any sense.
No, I mean, I think it makes perfect sense because you found kind of one love and you went from one love to another one, and realizing I myself, when I was younger, was really into writing because I couldn't find another way to express myself because of, as a kid, you have those insecurities over time. But I really think through writing, it helped me as a person. Then when I'm able to speak to people publicly, I know how to use my words wisely.
For sure.
And I definitely think that's something a lot of artists and creators, when they're younger, whether it's a writing, whether it's they love reading, researching, what have you, but realizing too is that having kids have some type of arts early on, I think is really beneficial, whatever art you choose. And realizing you have to allow the kid's mind to expand. And like you said, also, you feeling different, you feeling outside of the crowd. And there were many kids just like myself that had those times when we were younger. I mean, again, kids can be cruel for sure.
For sure.
Listen, and
I know all about that.
And of course, me growing up in New York, you growing up, I'm assuming you grew up in Boston.
Yep, I did. Yeah, born and raised.
This is me kind of just changing things up and just curveballing it. This question I have is what can you say life is like in Boston for a person who's not familiar with Boston? In your honest opinion, what have been the biggest takeaways of living in Boston?
I would put it like this. My first gut reaction is race conscious. Boston is segregated in a beautiful kind of way, segregated in the actual sense of the word, that there used to be certain towns where there were groups of a certain race or ethnicity. Let's say of old, a lot of Hispanics lived in JP, a lot of Haitians lived in Mattapan, and the farther you go back, that would flip-flop, But the beauty in that is you have these rich subcultures that are untouched, and so you can kind of learn from that. The other side of that is Boston's a gem because it is small, it is a walkable city. You can walk all of Boston one day, but because of the microcosms of culture, it's you can walk the whole city, but you can live here for 32 years of your life and still never see all of it,
Wow.
So that's
That definitely says a lot. I mean, and there's definitely it makes you just think, especially with that answer. And realizing too, I think you can also say that for New York. New York is big, but it's also in a weird way, people can live here for years and not really see all of New York. For me, Boston, I would say my experience when I was younger, because I was a child dancer since I was 5, growing up, going to congresses and events, Boston was one of those places I went to, had the pleasure of going to. And for me as a younger kid, kind of in an adult world, I think being in that type of world since I was really young molded me different. The maturity level or the pressure to be more mature at an earlier age hit.
For sure.
I was definitely in that phase because you can be 9, but you're not told to act 9 when you're around adults. I mean,
for sure.
So, I mean, seeing that you, of course, being from Boston and realizing also you are a dancer, when or how did dance, I mean, like you said, you went through understanding your love was dance hall. That's where it started. Where did that transition come that you got into salsa specifically?
So it happened, I would say, probably again, sophomore year of college. I went to Framingham State. Shout out to Framingham State. But when I went in 2006. Framingham State was a transit school, meaning that it wasn't like a big on-campus school. You had people from the neighboring towns who would drive in and drive out. It was also in the Metro West area, which is kind of outside of the city. And so what that means is there were a lot of white people, and there weren't very many black people. I remember my orientation. It was like, so what's diversity like? And I kid you not, the direct quote was, "Yes, there's another Haitian." you know, so I was just like, putting my hand back down.
Affirmative action. We just had to, we had to fit the status. We had to,
I say all that to say this, that their dance program looked different from my experience of dance. It was a lot of ballet, a lot of jazz, a lot of lyrical, a lot of technique-based dances. And dancehall, it has its own technique per se, but it's very free form, it's very creative, it's very expressive. And so when I'm around that environment, I'm like, well, I also want to be able to call myself a dancer and have some kind of standard, Yeah. And so my brother, shout out to Vlad, he's a ballroom instructor. He showed me like a salsa basic when I was in 6th grade, and I just kind of tucked it back away. So by the time college came around, I was like, let me try that salsa thing. That seems very structured.
Yeah.
And so I dabbled a little bit, and that's kind of how it started,
Wow. I mean, realizing that your brother was kind of the catalyst, kind of the one that pushed, like you said, your brother's a ballroom instructor. I mean, the odds of that. And like you said, ballroom is definitely a structured art form itself. Realizing the salsa dancing that we know as well is a little more loose at times. Of course, it can still have technique, structure, lines are important. But it's amazing to hear kind of that your family is already involved with dance, if it's not dance hall, actually being a professional instructor and you getting involved. When was that moment that you kind of went to your first social, in a sense, in Boston?
So my first social that I went to, let me think. It wasn't even... my first social was Havana, but before Havana, I used to do a lot of photography in Boston. Like I cut my photography teeth doing like nightlife photography in Boston. And there was a buddy of mine. His name is it's slipped my mind. He runs WBOP networking group, but he's a great guy. And he started a Latin night in Cambridge. And he's like, "Oh, Lumyr, you got to come through, blah, 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 blah." So I went there, had a great time, but they would play like one salsa song and then a myriad of like reggaeton. And so after that, I was like, I want to, try this salsa thing.
Yeah.
And so I was Googling around, and then I found Risque. Risque was like a Wednesday night salsa thing in Boston. That was my first one. And so once that closed, I went to Havana.
Man, yeah, I mean, and I've heard so much about Havana. That's like the central place when people like, hey, I want to go dancing, bachata, salsa in Boston, or bachata especially. Havana was the spot. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
And I think too, like, people have to also understand, like, coming into the dance world, that's really a whole different world.
Mm.
Like, when you hit your first social, to you see your first performance, to you go to your first congress, your first festival, it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes like, what are you doing this weekend? Most people like, oh, I might go to the beach. I might go here. Oh, I'm traveling to a new state so I can go party for 3 days straight, maybe get some sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, so you being the novice dancer at that point,
yeah.
When did you feel you were ready to kind of go into a company and start learning from there? And again, adding to that, who was the first company that you were a part of, or you felt like this is home, and kind of started your journey from there?
To be honest, I never felt I was ready. That's the honest answer. So I have a friend of mine, shout out to Lauren. I was at Havana. By this time, I had kind of like figured out my way,
Yeah.
My strategy was like, I don't dance stiff in any other dance style. I'm not going to start here. I'm just going to do what I do, listen to the music, and let it take where it take me,
A lot of
and
people.
so I was like, you know what? Just toss it out the window. Let's go, And so I was dancing with Lauren. She was a buddy of mine. And she's like, hey, you should join this team. You should join my team. And I was like, I don't know my left foot from my right foot. And so she's like, no, you should really do it. And so she had me dance in front of Raj Hashandani. Shout out to Raj. And so talked to Raj. She's like, yeah, practice starts this date. And I was traveling out of town, so I didn't even make the first class,
You already started.
Yes, I was like, you know what? This is, But that was for Alma Boston.
Yes, Latina Boston.
I'm a Latina Boston. And so when I finally came to the second, class, I was like, look, I don't know anything. I'm totally a newbie. I want to, try this out. They're like, okay. And, and I went through it, and then it was history from there.
Man, I mean, and let me just say, for me and my knowledge of I'm a Latina and the many franchises they have, I think you guys are one of the largest, if not the largest. I mean, I remember seeing some of your shows throughout the years, especially with I'm a Latina Boston. And what struck me was the size of how many people were in the group, but not just that. Specifically, I can tell that you guys trained intensely. You guys really took it to heart of the choreographies that you were learning and had to perform. And it was real. When I saw you guys perform, I admired it a lot, because me being a performer as well for many years, I thrive on having a connection with the artists. And I can feel, especially through I'm a Latina choreographies, you can learn the choreography, but can you do the choreography? There's a difference. I mean, and we understand in the dance world, like you now kind of showing us a glimpse into the journey of when you were a novice dancer, when you started taking it serious, and then now you're part of an actual company, and now you're learning about the dance world. It's like, now when you get out of work, you're going to a dance practice rehearsal for how many hours? You're doing choreographies. Now you're getting to perform on stages. What were those initial first shows like, or what was that first show like for you when you were performing?
It was kind of stressful. No, I take that back. It wasn't stressful. I think my goal was like, if I want to do this, I want to be good. And so I was like, well, what's that stand? Because there's no such thing as good, but there's also like representations of like good in quotes, So from the first practice, I was like, I want to practice like I'm on stage. I may never make it, So when I got on stage, it was, a natural transition. But I will say that over time, especially in the early days, like a couple people were pivotal. Shout out to Tina Cavicchio. She was my first coach. She coached
man. Tina, shouts out to Tina.
I was just, there was one thing that she told me and I never forgot it. And I was like, and that literally changed the whole trajectory of how I perform, have stage presence. Like, I'll never forget that. I definitely want to give a shout out to Raj, because without Raj, I think Alma Boston. Well, first off, Alma Boston wouldn't exist, period. But it wouldn't exist the way it was if it wasn't run by him, because he's very meticulous, attention to detail, and I think that's what allowed it to grow. And so his influence of like all the tricks and all the extra things, like that also played a part. But I mean, I definitely got to give a shout out to Jenna of Jenna and Louise, because back in the early days, before I knew what teams were, when I was going to Havana for like the first couple of times, I'll never forget it. They had a performance. I was like, oh, there's a show here tonight? Word. And I just remember like looking on stage and I was just like mesmerized. And I was just like, look at that technique. I didn't know what proper technique was. I was just like jaw dropped. And to the point where I ran up on stage afterwards and I'm like, excuse me, hi, like, I don't know who you are. I think you just performed. I was like, I hope I'm talking to the right person. I was like, I just want to tell you that like your guys' technique's amazing. Everybody's foot lands together and this, that. And so when it was finally my time to be on stage, I was like, that's what I want to be like. I might not make it and look like that, but that's what I'm shooting for. And so that molds that kind of attitude,
No, absolutely. And so then, as you said, with photography, as you talked about as well, realizing you have your passion for photography, your passion for dance, were those kind of an easy cohesion? Was it kind of easy to kind of mesh that world with the other world? Because I mean, of course, we know as dancers, who doesn't love a photo shoot? Who doesn't love to have their photos taken for shows, for promos, what have you? When did you realize for you that you could have those worlds coexist with one another?
So they kind of happened accidentally. I started shooting in high school. So my senior year was my first, but where I started was doing a lot of like nightlife events, like a lot of clubs and things like that. And that's what paid the bills. Outside of that, I did a lot of personal portraits, and my tagline was everyday beauty. And what it was is like in the time when I started, which was around 2008, 2009, when I started doing like a lot of like events, there was a big focus on fashion shows and everything's high fashion. Everyone wants to look upscale. And I would always ask, like, well, what about the girl at Dunkin' Donuts? What about the guy sitting on the street? Not a poor person, just a person who happened, like, where's the beauty in that, And so once I got to dance, I had a friend of mine, Sasha. She was the person that I would, go out to socials and dance with. She's also a dancer. And she's like, hey, I want you to shoot one of my dance shows. And when I was watching her dance, it was like, it made me realize it's not about the shape of the body, which is so emphasized in like fashion in the other world. It's the shape the body makes, So once that clicked, I was like, now I'm surrounded with people of different body shapes, making different shapes. It's like, why wouldn't I spend more time photographing this than the other thing, And so when that happened, it was like key in the lock,
I mean, absolutely, because we realized too, I mean, I've known many dancers that either have had a passion for photography or videography and make it work seamlessly. I mean, because so, like you said, at one point, nightlife photography was paying the bills.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this idea of filming in a dance scene was not even a thought process probably before that moment. Because again, it's about what's paying the bills. I mean, it can still be a passion, but it's a whole different field when that becomes a job. When that becomes a job, you have a total different responsibility. And for me too, as well as researching and you performing over the years, realizing that we're in that same social setting, but we also have different experiences. So my next question is, throughout your time of dancing, what were some of the memorable like Congress experiences or some of your favorite events really to go to?
I gotta say DCBX was it was monumentous because it was the first Congress that I went to. We were supposed to perform and we did, and it was the first time being around the real dancers, as I call them, because I was like, I'm in full imposter syndrome mode. I got a couple rhinestones on my outfit, but they're not blinging like theirs is blinging. So like, and so it was just, first off, I love DC. Shout outs to the whole DMV area. Love it. So I'm in like one of my favorite cities and I'm in this environment where everyone is just there for dance, like the lights, the classes, the busyness of like everything. And granted, as you grow in the dance scene, you're like, some of that stuff probably should be curtailed in a certain way. But like, if you're a first timer, it's just amazing. And I made like really close friends that I'm still friends with now. And it was just wonderful. Other definitely shout outs to BSF, Boston Salsa Fest. It's definitely a good time. It wasn't a congress, but I went to Tijuana for an Alma training retreat.
Oh my God. Oh, I've heard about that retreat.
Go. Just go. It's 10 days. Do it.
I know about the process because years ago, 2017.
Yeah.
Were you at the Rosarito Fest?
I had to leave right before Rosarito. I was there for the training, but I didn't stay for the congress.
Okay. So I knew because one of my really good friends, Oscar Valdez, the OGV, was there filming, and he told me about it. And then I saw the videos, and I was like, yeah, it's really intense. But I went to go film at Rosarito, had an amazing time. Say, man, those people from Alma can party for sure. I didn't realize today they definitely can party because, and the way I say that, I mean it honestly, but realizing like when I tell people, for the person that doesn't understand the Congress lifestyle, when people are saving money throughout the year for a specific event that's only for 3 days.
Oh, they go in.
Like, I've been that person as a videographer in an event. This was last year, not last year, the year before. I was in Dallas. I came there literally that Friday at 5 p.m., did not sleep. I filmed throughout that whole showcase into the social. I did not go to sleep until 2 p.m. that next day.
Yep.
And people knew how tired I was because I literally went from showcase to social to the artist room where there was food and drinks, and I can just sit there and people were just like, wait, you've been here since I've been here, since 6
Yep.
I've been here, but I love it. I love
absolutely
the ambience and realizing, I mean, yeah, man, through COVID happening for us at one point, wondering when the next social we were going to go to see the friends. We don't get to see that often because of work, and everything changing in almost a day, in days time, and realizing, as I said a lot of times on this podcast, how vulnerable our dance community was, and it really showed, because realizing that many people in the dance scene, I wouldn't say many, but some, really, this is their livelihood, and realizing everything can change. And with this being a virus and our dance community, we thrive on connection. So not having that connection, like, we like to be close. Let's just let's get all the way funky. We like to be close to one another. So having something like this definitely impedes that. But my thing too is, I'm hopeful for a better future. I'm hopeful for more understanding. I'm hoping that there's people like us in the world that are doing positive things and right things for our community that people understand, because no longer can you tell us, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to feel. We're giving you the blueprint here. And this actually takes me now to my next question is, with COVID happening, kind of everything changing on its head, what were those initial times like for you, going through that period while we were all going through it, at the same time?
My very first reaction was relief, to be completely honest. Obviously, it was like, it's a deadly virus and people were being sick, and the confusion of not knowing, and the studio, temporary closing down. But at that time, I was I was dancing on one team for Alma. I was teaching another team. I was taking salsa lessons, and I was taking another bachata lesson with Jen Louise. And I was dancing on the weekend, plus doing photography. And having a full-time job working. I work as a solar consultant during the day. So I was burnt out. So when they're like, we're going to close the studio for 2 weeks, everything that I was involved interacting with other people in some form. So like I had like a month of nothing to do now. I was like, this is not bad. Yeah. This is cool, you know? But it was kind of sad because it was right at the beginning of our new season of our training team for Alma. And this had been we were going into our 4th or 5th season of teaching. Shout out to Sherry Zhang. She was my dance partner and co-teacher. And we felt like we finally like hit our stride. We understood like how to connect with people at that level. And so we were really excited. And they were doing phenomenal. Like they were like that probably would have been like one of our best seasons yet. So it was sad to see that we couldn't, you know, see them all the way through. But at the same time, like the last thing I would say, I was very hopeful because when things at that magnitude happen, the first thing that comes to mind is there's an opportunity for success here. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where it is. My exact quote was like, yo, there's a bag in this for someone if you're looking for it. You know, and not that you're profiting off of loss, but it's like, how can I take this misfortune and turn it into an opportunity for something better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's kind of you self-reflecting and understanding, all right, what path am I going to take now? Because I've also realized too, and many people I've talked to, their mental state was definitely affected. I mean, when something that they call a passion escape from their reality, something they love doing for so long is taken away from them without their control. That's where you see people's true vulnerability. That's where you see where people's mindsets are. I mean, over a year later, and we're still going through this, but realizing that with platforms like ours, we're helping people cope. We're helping people realize that maybe the thoughts they have aren't too far-fetched. Maybe the thoughts they have aren't too crazy. And that brings me now to my next question is, you have an amazing podcast that I love watching, as long as with your co-host, called If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. And I mean, me being a fan as well, I would love for you to kind of tell myself and the audience the meaning and the vision behind that.
So the title is a play on words for the movie Field of Dreams, which is ironic because that's the poem. So it all kind of ties in together. And the premise of that movie, there's a guy who owns a field and he hears the voice of God. He doesn't know if it's the voice of God, but that's what they attributed to in the movie. And the voice says, if you build it, they will come. He ends up cutting down a cornfield, building a baseball stadium, and he gets to watch like these ghosts play baseball, and it revitalizes like the economy in that city, you know? Yeah. One of the things that I am known for among my friends groups and acquaintance groups and circles is like never really having time because I'm running from one thing to the other. Oh, Lumyr, you always got all these things going on. Like, when do you sleep? So in June, I was like, look, I'm going to get on this live and I'm going to be here for an hour. All you people, you know, you wanted to interact with me? Here I am. I'm going to be here for the next hour or some odd. I don't even know how to work a live, but I'm going to be here. If y'all want to see it here. And I was like, I'm going to tell this as an experiment. If you stream it, they will come. Oh. And the funny thing is, like, I streamed it and they came and I was like, oh, we have something here.
Yeah. I mean, you have something when you have people coming at 12 midnight to your show. Yeah. That's something there.
To be completely honest, the show it used to start at 1 a.m. to 3. I mean, it used to be a 2-hour show of me like monologuing and like talking to people through the chat. And and after the second episode, I was like, well, if I'm going to be up here talking and I can't see who's interacting with me, I should probably have a topic so I have something to talk about for the next 2 hours in the middle of the night for people who are exhibiting poor sleeping habits.
I mean, because from 1 to 3, man, oh, God bless. That's hard. But I mean, realizing too is that, like you said, you started to understand that you had to have a message. You have to have a focus because you're realizing there are a lot of topics that people are really intrigued by, and people want to hear other people speak on it just to see their perspective on things. And like you said, that social experiment became something. So I mean, I believe in that notion of everything happens for a reason. I mean, when it's a very catchy name for sure. Realizing too is that,
Yes.
I mean, just realizing as well, then you adding the co-host and having another perspective, having ideas jump from one end to the other. I think that's also an amazing thing to see as well.
I definitely want to stop and like give like a full stop. Big shout out to Sherry Davis. Her name is Sherry Davis. Sherry Davis. She's probably one of my oldest friends. I think we've been friends for 17 plus years. And so it was on episode 12, we were talking about music, and I finally figured out my streaming thing where I can invite guests on. We had a great conversation, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, now that I can bring people on the show, I should have a co-host. And like, I kid you not, the next day, she's like, Lumyr, last night was awesome. I had a great time. You know, if you ever need a co-host, I was like, funny you ask. But one thing I will say is Sherry works for the Participatory Budgeting Project out in Oakland. And what it does is it allows people to be a part of the process of figuring out where the funds go in my city. We always complain like, I pay my taxes, I do all these things, I don't know where the money goes. Like, so the Participatory Budgeting Project says, no, this is how you get active with the money that's in your community. So she's already in that space, you know? And one of the things that I'm grateful for is that she came in and she took this idea that I have and she cleaned it up and she really made it a show. Like, not only does she have like an amazing personality, that she's an amazing person, she's creative, she's funny, well-spoken, she's black, you know what I mean? But it's like her ability to take, you know, a gem in the rough and really polish it, but in a way that's loving, but firm. It's like the show, the way it is now, wouldn't be anything the way it is without her. So I definitely got to give Sherry a big shout out.
Big ups to Sherry for real.
Yes.
I mean, just seeing that you could have you know, a tag team, a tandem like yourselves, and realizing too the topics that you talk about are important. The conversations that you have are needed. So I mean, I again, big ups to you, big ups to Sherry, and if you stream it, they will come podcast. And man, before we get to our last segment called the randoms, my question to you is, with everything that's been going on this past year, we're already in 2021. To think about it, we're literally, tomorrow's March 31st. It's about to be April.
Wild.
I mean, and just seeing, I mean, how far we've come and everything, and of course with vaccines and things for people hopefully looking better, but I've also heard New York cases are going up again. For me, a question I do ask many people, and I would love to ask you, is what do you see is the future of our dance community?
I see it in two ways. One possibility is going what I call the human nature route. We will forget that this experience has happened. We will forget that these 2 years have happened. All the connection in the feels of all that we're going through will be lost in a blip, partly because the new generation who didn't start with dancing had to stop. They will not have experienced that. And the I would say the natural tendency to, once things are good again, focus on the good. And I think it's kind of sad, but it's a possibility. The other way I see it going is it's like, you have real people connecting with real people in real ways, you know? I always joke with my friends that once we are allowed to dance, it's going to be a 24-hour just like dance marathon, and like 12 hours is going to be spent with people hugging and crying. Like, we can touch each other, you know?
As you see, I miss your hugs. I mean, like, I love this shirt right now.
You know, shout out to Fide's Designs. He designs the shirt and a number of many ones. Make sure you check out Fide's Designs if you want shirts like these. But the future is we have the opportunity to really connect with people. I think, especially with the pandemic, especially with the lot of racial turmoil that happened to fall on this side, whether it be the Asian hate situation that we're going through now, or the Black Lives Matter thing that we're going now, President 45, like all those things happened at a period where people who are escapists, which are like, I'm including myself, us dancers, we are like talented escapists because we have a whole industry built on escaping the real world. we had this
alternate reality.
Yeah, you know, and I don't say escapist in a bad way. Let me rephrase it. We have an outlet that's inbuilt to our daily life where we can kind of like go into different reality and not deal with those hard-hitting situations. We had all those things that affected almost everyone in the dance community, and there was no outlet. And some people have been changed and have been impacted by that. And if that change is lasting, when we go into the dance community, like it'll be there. The compassion that we have for there. Like one of the things that has always like broken my heart is the way people treat people who are not skilled dancers, you know? And it's just like many socials, I won't put anyone in particular. You can tell. You walk in, you have the good dancers in the front sitting on the stage. You have the middies, you know, I call them the people who sit like in the middle.
middies.
The middies, you know, they sit in the middle, they do their thing. And then you have the beginners in the back, you know, in some places it's even unlit in the back. It's like, let me stand on the wall, and like they're neglected, you know, or like I have like a lot of my female friends who are just starting. It's like, oh, this guy was trying to teach me on the dance floor and it just made me feel really bad, you know? And it's just like, and it happens because there's no compassion.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, please.
Not even just that there's no compassion. I think there's no proper education being instilled. Because the thing is, like you said, from a friend, I believe you said her experience, that experience happens a lot. That actually hinders the growth of a new generation, of a new community, because when you don't learn what's right or wrong, everything is right, you know. And
absolutely.
Experiences, especially with women with sexual harassment on the dance floor or at a congress or a festival, really, even at a social, like you said, even the experiences of someone trying to teach you on a social dance floor setting where other people are around, unsolicited.
At
least he or she didn't pull out the phone with the Cash App and just say, send it here.
I mean, if that's the case, I would rather you do that. At least I know, you know.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say this, that part of that is fueled by the way the culture is set up. And I don't mean this as a slight. I mean this as someone who was on the outside looking in, and then who came in, but who has also been in similar situations with different types of cultures. It was very clear to see that there's a superstar culture in the Latin dancing. For good or for bad, it just is what it is. The problem with that is you have people who aspire to be those superstars, and they embody the traits that they think these superstars, not the traits that they actually have. They aspire to have the traits that they think they have. And oftentimes they think that trait is arrogance for whatever reason, you know, and that thought of that aspiration translates to when they're on the dance floor. So when you see someone who's dancing on the wrong timing, is not really familiar with the music, doesn't have musicality, and that whole, you know, can of worms, it's like, because that the person who's ahead or better wants to aspire to be a leader. So they feel like, in order for me to get ahead, I've got to treat this person as a second class citizen, you know,
almost inferior to your, And the thing is, you say that, and I actually agree. Being in New York most of my life, but being able to travel, whether it's for dancing and performing or videography work and working with organizers and events directly. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. For me, realizing that with our social dances, our congresses and events, there's a lot of things that need change. There's a lot of things that need improvement. And the thing is, when we have these kind of conversations, this is where the solutions are being shown. Absolutely. Because no longer can organizers or promoters tell me they know what to do.
Listen, talk about it.
This is why I tell people, it's like, as you're doing your episodes and me now, over 100 episodes, that's over.
Talk about it. Flex. No, say that again. No. We're going to run that back. Flex. How many episodes? How many
Over
episodes?
100 episodes
Okay. All right.
since June 2020. For me, it's dedication, but in reality,
Yeah.
like you said here, it's really the documentation for me that means so much because,
Mm,
like you said too in a hit, if me and other people weren't helping bring these stories, who would actually listen to these stories or hear about these stories?
for
When I'm
sure.
hearing about the same dances we love and admire,
Mm,
realizing how much they are as beautiful artists on a stage, they're also more beautiful as people.
for
And
sure.
realizing their stories correlated or coexisted or helped manifest it into a dance career.
Hmm.
How they just landed there out of nowhere, whether
Yep.
they had a brother who was a ballroom dance teacher,
Yeah.
influence, realizing with all the people that I have and will continue to have,
Yeah.
learning people's stories. I tell people this: the greatest thing in life for me is socialization
Mm,
because learning about other people helps me understand myself better. I tell people just like tell our
yes.
people, when we tell our kids, or we know people who tell their kids,
Mm,
you got to go to school so you could talk to people.
mm,
I realize also being in a military setting, being in training at one point, having that deprived of meaning I only know 40 people in a room with me for 2
mm.
months at a time, and I have to learn to coexist with people.
Yep.
Beauty of socialization, the beauty of being able to socialize with someone, learn about them. I may not like everything, they might not like everything about me, but
Mm,
now we can't say we don't know something.
for
We
sure.
can
For
take away
sure.
the excuse of I don't know the people, I don't know what they're like. Perfect. Puts you two in a setting, and you're gonna learn to like each other. You're gonna learn to understand each other at one point. But
Yeah.
and actually, you know what? I really do have to ask this last question. Can you please tell us about the experiences you've been through lately, the amazing projects you've been working with Anara, Tina, Kyla? You guys have been doing something really intriguing over these past few months of I would say the flexibility and I don't know, just it's hard to explain. Like you had some like courses of just doing a lot of aerobic work or just, I mean, I would say
So,
that I'd rather you explain the recent, just amazing work you guys have been doing of late.
what I'll do is I'll put it like this. So first off, definitely shout outs to Anara Frank. She's a pillar in the Boston dance scene, and I'm sure you've heard that from a number of different people. And one of the things that she runs is the Med Movements dance company. And
Yes.
what we do is we are an artist collective that provides support for dancers in the U.S., but also in Cuba and the Dominican Republic. You know, Anara is a trained gymnast. She's also a trained dancer of a number of different styles. And so I had the opportunity of working with her like years ago, but now in like a more of like a up close and personal kind of
Yeah.
setting where I'm like a part of the team. And one of the things that we're doing is providing an outlet for people to still experience dance in the midst of pandemic. So part of that is our library of online video classes from Cuban contemporary, from Cuban dancing, from Cuban salsa, bachata, and flexibility. All that's online, it's accessible, it's monthly. You can, all that's there. But in order to provide that content, you've got to learn it. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm learning about flexibility. I'm learning about Cuban salsa. I'm learning Cuban contemporary, and the ability to the proof that you've learned something is your ability to give it to somebody else. And so, in her attempt to pass it on, it's like if it's real, it's gonna stick. But if it's real and it's gonna stick, let it stick with the people in my immediate circle first. Because if it doesn't work with them, then toss it. But Anara has this magical ability to like I don't know. There's no real word for it. I would just call it a magic ability of bringing out the best in the people that she's around, you know. And so the fact that we're around her, it's like she's bringing out the best in us for however long you stay, whether it's a minute or it's living in the same house. And people are seeing the expressions of that, whether that's
Yeah.
through the flexibility, through the dance, and all those kinds of things. So that's what we're doing.
I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful. I mean, I think it's great how you can do a full backflip in your house and not break
Yeah.
anything. That right there is amazing. I mean, again, seeing that work that you guys have been doing, I mean, even traveling, going outside of the country and just having that camaraderie with one another, building with one another, and succeeding. Other success. Just seeing the joy in people when they're able to do something they never done before.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful. So now it kind of brings us to our closing segment called Randoms, which is about 10 questions that allows myself and the audience to get to know you a little bit better. But before we get started, we have Gennaro Ramirez here from Meta Movement's House saying, as well as Caitlin Nancy representing here.
Crew in the building. Yes.
And as well, Gennaro saying back tuck for days.
Yes. So yeah. So I learned how to do that flip this year. I'm 32 and it was on my bucket list and it happened. So it's a big deal.
Me too. I mean, I just turned 30. So if I can do a backflip in my 30s, then I think I'm doing things pretty well.
I got you.
So all I need to know, man, is when you are ready.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Number 1, what is your favorite food?
Bacon.
Just straight bacon.
Listen, Dunkin' Donuts, when they had the snack and bacon, I was like, listen.
They still do.
At first, I was like, this is a shame. Who should be fired for this? Like terrorizing the weights of all of our children, but also put it in the bag.
I mean, I definitely don't blame some snack and bacon right there. So basically, you are one of the cheapest dates, I guess. Just take you to Dunkin', buy 2 bags of bacon. I mean, iced coffee, maybe 2 for $5. I don't know if we're going there yet, but
I mean, I like what I like.
I don't discriminate. All right, next question is, if you could be at a social right now, you could have one song only to dance to, what song would that be?
Wow. There's one song. Oh, it's a salsa song. I'm trying to remember the name. Oh, geez, I don't remember the name of it. It's wow, I'm like totally blanking on the name, but it's a salsa song. I don't even know. It'll come back to me and I'll like middle of the night, like, okay.
All right. Next question, this actually kind of connected to the last question, is if you could dance with one follow, who would it be?
Someone I've never met before.
It could be someone you've never met before.
No, that's my answer. Like, it would be someone I've never met before. Like, I think the experience of dancing with a new person is like so rich. Like that's irreplaceable. Like, as much as I love the people that I've danced with before and had amazing dances, it doesn't beat it. You know, I want to dance with a stranger.
Wow. I love that. I mean, honestly, I really do love that answer. I mean, because just the kind of appreciating the unknown, because you never know, that next dance could just be so memorable rather than you kind of telegraphing everything and you already know what's going to happen. But I definitely respect that. I love that answer. Next question is, what did Lumyr want to be at 10 years old?
At 10, I wanted to be a scientist.
I like that. Molecular biology. Is there any?
The real answer is a mad scientist.
Ren and Stimpy, like.
But yeah, I definitely wanted to be like a scientist with the beakers. I didn't know that was chemistry back then, but I was like, I want to be like a scientist.
Oh, okay, all right, I like that. All right, next question is, what is the funniest moment you've ever had on stage, or the funniest moment, or the most embarrassing moment you've had or seen someone do?
The funniest moment that I've had is like all 7 times I split my pants last season. So for our final routine for Alma Boston, our advanced team, there's a jump split that I do.
Was it the red and black routine?
No, shout outs to the amateur team. They're amazing. I love them. No, it was the all blue. We were in all blue.
Okay.
It's the one that's my profile picture. And in the middle of the song, there's a jump straddle pike, what happens in the air. And I would say 7 out of the 10 times that I perform that routine, I split my pants right down the middle.
I've split my pants in a pink outfit with polka dot underwear.
So. Oh my goodness. I feel you. Yeah. Oh, the funniest one that go ahead.
No, what were you saying?
I was gonna say the funniest one that I've seen is shout out to Sherry Zhang. She was dancing in same performance and her heel broke off and she tossed the shoe and she got busy. she got real busy. I was like, yes, that's how we do it.
The show must go on. The show definitely must go on. I love it. I love that answer. Next question is partner work or shines?
Like right now, I would say shines because it's like there's something about just like feeling the music and dancing for yourself. It's just amazing. Just like you groove and get into it, you know?
Okay. All right. Next question is if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I would say super speed.
Smart.
Yeah, just get everything done.
Absolutely. All right. Now, next question. I need 3 of your top favorite follows.
3 of my top
people you know.
People that I know. My 3 favorite follows.
And I would say what I mean you know is know of as well. Not just saying like you know personally, but
I got you. My 3 top favorite follows. So one of them is Katie. She's not a big dancer in the Latin scene, but she's a big dancer in the blues scene, and it's just like it's magical. Like, and like it's like we have the same brain. It doesn't matter what happens. It's like I go left and I meant right, and she moves right, and it's just butter. It's just like, and it doesn't matter the style. We could be dancing to salsa, bachata. We can be dancing to blues. We can be doing salsa to blues, and it's just like magical.
It just works.
Yeah. The next one, and I say this in no particular order, is Elizabeth Blumenthal. She's probably like my top favorite dancer of all time. Again, same situation, same regardless of style. It's just like favorite. Like, you know, just always. My third favorite of all time. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. I used to have a running list of top 3, but I can't think of. Yeah, I can't think of the third one, but I'm sure it'll come later. Yeah.
All right. Next question. Second to last question is what is a special talent that many people wouldn't know you have?
A special talent that people wouldn't know that I have. That I write poetry. I don't think people know that, and it's not really something I broadcast either. So it's not something that's public knowledge. But yeah, I write a lot.
I mean, it's a definite skill for sure. And it definitely takes a talent, because as well, myself having that experience doing open mics, like it's much easier. I realized I can honestly say it. It's much easier performing dancing in front of a Congress than it is doing an open mic in front of 10 people.
Oh, for sure.
So, I mean, like when I'm saying for me, having that experience of doing open mics in front of larger crowds, smaller crowds, the smaller crowds are the ones that really hit you because you feel the heat, you feel you feel the facial expressions, the stares. And, you know, for me, seeing a person like yourself who's been able to have that open mic experience in your dance experience, just like transition seamlessly, it really speaks volumes. And now it brings me to my last question. I love asking this one. It goes like this. If you're on an island, but disclaimer, there is no Wi-Fi on this island, 3 things that you would have to have with you.
I'm on an island, no Wi-Fi. 3 things that I would have to have with me. I would say like a knife or something that I can use to help build and create. I would say mm, 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 mm. Part of me says like a book, something that I can keep myself entertained with.
Mm-hmm.
And then a sense of wonder.
Oh,
Yeah. I think with those three things, it's like the ability to create something, a reference of something that's created, and a sense of wonder to reinvent the second with the first is like, that's all you really need, you know?
that right there deserves a snap. 'Cause that sounded like yeah, that sounded like you just you freestyled that. That was a new piece coming out. The next title of your next piece should be called "A Sense of Wonder."
I got
Right.
bet. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
I'm helping. I'm helping you.
Bet. I got you.
Lumyr, I really want to thank you so much for doing this segment. I definitely think between the beginning of our talk till now, me learning a little bit more about you is really important because for the artists that I admire, like yourself, having the opportunity for people to also see the human side to you is so much more important than what you just do on a stage because everyone can see that from a YouTube video or post. But now hearing about your life and your experiences or some of your experiences thus far today, I mean, it's awesome. It's been a great time. But at least before we go, I'd love to know if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, but also contact info on how people can reach you and see what you have in store for the future.
Last words, I would say, bro, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so necessary. And like you probably have an idea now. You won't realize how necessary what you're doing is until 10 years from now. You're randomly scrolling through Facebook, be like, I spoke to this person, spoke to that person. Quick story. I did a photograph for someone's 62-year-old birthday by mistake, you know. 10 years later, they call me to do the photo shoot for their son's first birthday. They told me that the majority of the people that I photographed, not the majority, a lot of them have passed away. So what I thought was just a birthday party is the last living memory that they have of those people. And like what your podcast is doing, that's what you're creating. Who knows where we're gonna be 5 years from now, 5 minutes from now? It's like you're capturing that. And I'm like, yo, I don't care what it takes, bro. Keep doing it. Just keep going. Keep going.
I appreciate that.
Words to the audience. Hey y'all. I'll be out giving hugs once we can touch people safely again. So there's that. Contact information. You can find me at LUMYRD on Instagram. Same thing on Facebook. If you want to check out the If You Stream It podcast, that is at If You Stream It podcast on Instagram and all social media. That's also the website, ifyoustreamitpodcast.com. You can check us out over there. If you want to see some of the photography, it's at PBYLD. That's at PBYLD, at Photography by Lumyr. And if you go to any one of those three places, you can get in contact with me. I'm always online. You can send me a message. I'm really accessible, you know.
Man, thank you, man. Honestly, Lumyr, from start to finish, it's been great. It's been really revealing. I love the honesty, the transparency. For me, seeing that you are one of the focuses, especially in the Boston community, the creatives that I've been seeing that have really just kind of been pushing the envelope genuinely, doing it with doing your work with good intentions. And that's the main focus. And for me, like you said, I've thought about it and I realized the responsibility I have of having people like yourself having you tell your stories from your opinions and your beliefs in your own words, because I think no one can tell someone else's story better than they can.
For sure.
Having you on has been amazing tonight. I really say for many people, this is just a glimpse into your life, and I'd love to have you on for a future episode, maybe a Boston edition. We have 4 or 5 some of my favorite Boston artists here. It might be a surprise. It might be planned.
We'll Beantown?
Yes. So we'll definitely get into that. Ask some really amazing questions about Boston. See what's really going down in Boston. But I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone that's been able to tune in and everything. Thank you all again for an amazing episode. I'm here, Diamond Rivera, along here with Lumyr Derisier. Hopefully I said that right.
Yeah, you got it.
Big ups to everyone who's tuned in. Big ups to Boston Heavy. I love everyone. Everyone, again, be safe. And everyone, we will see you next